Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're opening the case files on some of Japan's most terrifying modern myths. We're not just here to tell ghost stories, we're investigating the legends themselves and the very real fears they represent. Okay, let's just dive right into this. It's a universal fear, isn't it? That chilling sensation, that feeling of an unseen presence, a pair of eyes on you in a place you thought was completely safe, a place that was supposed to be your own. So our investigation begins where we feel the most secure, our home. But these legends, they really prey on a modern anxiety. The feeling that in our crowded cities and thin-walled apartments, true privacy is just, well, an illusion. We're going to explore the spirits that breach this sanctuary, turning familiar corners into sources of absolute terror.
Right, our first case file. Here, we're examining two totally distinct entities that invade our most private of spaces. One is an uninvited guest who just finds a way in, and the other is a presence you actually have to summon yourself.
So you can see here we have two very different methods of invasion. One spirit, Tsukima Onna, she just finds the empty spaces in your life and occupies them, a phantom of forgotten corners. The other, Daruma-san, has to be willingly, if very foolishly, invited in through a ritual.
The reports on Tsukima Onna, or the girl in the gap, often follow this pattern of just psychological dread. Take the case of a young man named Isamu. After he moved into a new apartment, he was just overcome with this feeling of being constantly watched. He searched everywhere, found nothing, and slowly started losing his mind, even taping over every single crack and gap in his home. When Isamu's worried friends finally had to break into his apartment, he barely even looked at them. He just pointed. He pointed them to the gap between a dresser and the wall. They leaned in, expecting nothing. And there, in a space just 5 centimeters wide, they saw her. A woman in a red dress, her long hair hiding her face, just staring back.
So if Tsukima Onna represents a fear of being watched without your consent, our next spirit explores the kind of terror you unleash on yourself. The Bath Game summons the ghost of a woman who died violently in her tub. It's a story that really plays on the vulnerability of being alone in such a private space.
Now, what's really interesting here are the very strict rules. It's a whole complex game of supernatural tag with a very precise way to win. But the main idea is simple. You acknowledge the ghost, and then you have to survive it. But if you fail, it's fatal. A 14-year-old girl named Lara supposedly found this out when she failed to end the game before midnight. She was found drowned in her own bathtub, haunted to the very, very end.
Let's move on and see how this all builds. Our next case file investigates two of Japan's most infamous female spirits. Now, these aren't just random hauntings. These are stories of betrayal, of violence, and a rage that literally transcends death itself. They reflect these really deep-seated cultural anxieties about justice and retribution. Both of these spirits are tragic figures, right? They're women who suffered these horrific fates and were twisted into monstrous entities. Now, they just wander the modern world, looking to inflict their own suffering on anyone unlucky enough to cross their path. This is the chilling question posed by Teke Teke. She's said to be the ghost of a schoolgirl, Kashima Reiko, who was tragically pushed onto train tracks by bullies. A passing train, well, it severed her body in two. Her story taps into this very real fear of the sudden, brutal violence of the modern city. She moves with this unnatural speed, just on her hands and elbows, making that awful teke-teke sound. If she catches you, and you can't give her an answer she likes, she'll cut you in half with a scythe, making you just like her. And this might be the most famous and terrifying question in all of Japanese urban folklore. It comes from Kuchisake Onna, the slit-mouthed woman. She approaches her victims at night, her disfigured face hidden behind a surgical mask, which is so clever because it's an item so common it lets her blend in perfectly. So, the crucial point here is that this is a trap. There is no right answer. The legend says she was a beautiful but vain woman who was mutilated by a jealous samurai husband. Now her spirit forces you into this impossible choice, which is a pretty terrifying commentary on the dangers of judging people, especially on how they look. And this just brilliantly illustrates how a story can leap from a campfire tale to a full-on public crisis. In the late 1970s, the fear of Kuchisake Onna became so real that it caused widespread panic. Schools were affected, and actual police, were genuinely dispatched to address public fear over a ghost. It was this perfect storm of stranger danger anxiety.
Okay, our final file.
This one examines spirits you meet just by chance, in a dark alley, on a lonely shortcut, or in a desolate forest. These aren't hauntings you invite. They are curses you just stumble upon. They reflect that primal fear of being in the wrong place at the wrong time.
So on one side, you have a mysterious stalker, and just getting her attention is basically a death sentence. On the other, you have a cursed object, an everyday item that's housing this hateful, dangerous soul, just waiting for a chance to strike.
This was the exact fate of a student named Unaki. He was working late at the library, decided to take a shortcut home, and on that dark path he saw a woman in a red dress. Overcome by curiosity, he glanced at her face, and that one look sealed his fate. He said it was pale, just like a corpse.
After that night, Unaki was completely haunted. He saw her everywhere. The terror all culminated in this frantic phone call to a friend, where he just whispered these final words. His friend rushed over, of course, but Unaki was gone, vanished from his own home, never to be seen again.
You know, this legend turns a symbol of guidance, a lantern, into a vessel for pure malice. It's a classic horror trope we're exploring here, the perversion of something innocent, transforming an object of comfort into an instrument of terror.
Think about the story of a traveler named Kenji. He was hiding from bandits in an abandoned shrine, and he found an old paper lantern. He lit it to see in the dark, but the very light he sought for safety, well, that became his doom. The lantern revealed a gruesome face inside it, and a ghostly figure emerged, tearing him apart before he could even scream.
So, after examining all these case files, from the tiny gaps in our walls to the lonely streets at night, what have we really learned? What's the common thread that allows these stories to persist and, honestly, to terrify us?
As we've seen, these legends are so much more than just simple ghost stories. They're like cultural barometers. They prey on these very specific modern anxieties: the lack of privacy, the threat of random violence, the fear of strangers. They transform the mundane, a bathtub, a mask, a paper lantern, into conduits for absolute terror, reminding us the danger could be anywhere.
So, whether it's the space between your bed and the wall, or a lonely figure at the end of the street, these legends remind us of one thing. The stories might not be real, but the fear is. Thank you for joining this explainer.